Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Todd Letts. I'm CEO of the Brampton Board of Trade, and I want to welcome you to an event that we look forward to each year, an annual event. It is our Federal Issues Forum, and today our guests are Kamal Khera, MPP for Brampton North, Sonia Sidhu, MPP for Brampton South. Did I get that right, Kamal? Brampton North? No, Brampton West.
Yes, and it's MPs for Brampton West.
Oh my gosh, I need a coffee this morning. Absolutely. Kamal Khera, MP for Brampton West. Sonia Sidhu, MP for Brampton South. We have Ruby Sahota, MP for Brampton North, and Maninder Sidhu, MP for Brampton Center.
East.
East. Okay. All I know is that these are the hardest working MPs in the legislature. They're so accessible, so in tune with business issues. I know that I visited each of you in Ottawa just before the pandemic and enjoyed those discussions very much on a variety of issues that we will be covering today as well. Before we begin with our questions, I just wanted to say thank you very much to our sponsors. And our sponsors today is a family-owned business, Goodison Insurance, been in the insurance business here in Brampton for 80 years. Thank you to Scott Goodison, who I understand is one of our guests here today as well in the audience. Thank you, Goodison Insurance. I also want to thank Sheridan College. Sheridan College continues to be at the cutting edge of education for our citizens. 3 campuses, of course, Oakville, Mississauga, and the largest, the Davis campus here in Brampton, ranked as one of the top 5 research colleges in Canada. Sheridan, thank you so much for helping us make this event possible today. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's get right into the questions. We will open it up for questions. If you have a specific question for our MPs, you can put it in the chat. We have about 4 or 5 different topics that I'll kick things off, and then I'll check to see if there's anything from our guests. Let me start with a question to Sonia Sidhu, the MP for Brampton South. Downtown Brampton, we want to see more jobs created there. We want to see more commercial space and businesses, etc. And it's currently in a special protected area because of the floodplain. And the federal government recently made an investment in the Riverwalk project. And I'm just wondering if you can just remind us what that investment was and what can businesses expect with respect to the remainder of the funding to help get Riverwalk going. Sonia, welcome.
Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to joining you today. I'm Sonia Sidhu, Member of Parliament from Brampton South. First of all, this is a very important topic, and really want to say whole team of Brampton Board of Trade to organizing this event. Successful businesses are the key to city's property. And most importantly, thank you, Todd, for this question. The Riverwalk project has been an important for all of us. I know it will be transformative for the downtown core. Even though the first speeches in the House of Commons, it was the importance protecting our downtown from flooding. And the first announcements we all MP joined when even though first announcement for the fund, $10 million we did study of flood mitigation in Brampton, the first step towards the Riverwalk. Back in November 2020, Minister McKenna joined us, all Brampton MPs. We did a virtual announcement that our government was investing $38 million in flood prevention. We all know Brampton downtown sits on a flood zone. It is expected to create 3.6 million square feet of residential, commercial, retail space in downtown, creating more than 23,000 jobs, which is very, very important for Bramptonian. Right now, we all know city is still undergoing consultation about the design process. When the planning is going to be completed, then they will take the next step. We will all work together to see the Riverwalk gets built, and with the proper consultation, and the whole community will be able to take part in the benefits what it brings.
Thank you. That's great. Well, we certainly do look forward to that project. I've got a question now with respect to our Tucumcari, with respect to carbon tax. The federal government outlined the Carbon Action Plan in December, and it has set a price for carbon. And that price is in place in order to encourage businesses to reduce their carbon footprint. That price has been set, and it increases quite significantly from, I think, $50 per square ton per ton to 170 within in 9 years. Whenever you establish a new framework for pricing, there can always be unintended consequences. We know of cases here in Brampton where firms that are environmentally responsible have been subject under this new plan to pretty stringent restrictions. That investments they made, what happens is they set a base year and then expect the company to reduce emissions by a certain base year. But if a company made investments a year prior, for example, it doesn't seem to be properly accounted for, and the restrictions could have an impact on jobs. Wondering if you could just tell us a little bit more about the action plan, and if we have companies that are in that situation, is there any sort of relief with respect to special consideration for companies so that we don't unintendedly reduce jobs or force companies to make different investment decisions? Kamal, you want to comment on that?
For sure. Thank you, Todd, first and foremost. Good morning, everyone. It's good to be here. Though I have to say, I do miss the breakfast that we've always had at the federal forums in the past, but it's good to see everyone. And I know it's been a challenging year for everyone, but I do want to take an opportunity to thank Brampton Board of Trade and, of course, all our business community for your strength and resiliency over the past year. In terms of your question, Todd, I think first and foremost, we all know that climate change is real. What is changing and rapidly is that we're not alone. You know, the world is pursuing a cleaner, lower carbon economy, and creating good jobs and economic prosperity for Brampton while reducing pollution isn't just a good environmental policy. Actually, it's good for business and it's good for the economy. Our climate action incentives actually puts a price on pollution and puts more money back into people's pockets. And this year alone, a family of 4 in Brampton will receive $600, when they file their taxes. We've also strengthened, Todd, our climate plan in a way that ensures that Canadians and businesses are better off and our economy can remain strong. And we're doing that by also making sure that we're investing in clean public active transit right here in Brampton. You know, that includes the first of its kind of electric bus pilot project that, is fully green electric buses that we invested in 2019, over 45 million for public transit last year alone, and key investments like the 400 million active transportation fund. So when it comes specifically to businesses, we've invested in businesses become more energy efficient and save money in the process. We've also reaffirmed our commitment to cut the corporate tax rate in half for companies making zero emission products. And there's also an output-based pricing system, which is actually designed to ensure that there's a price incentive for industrial emitters to reduce their greenhouse emissions and spur innovation while also maintaining competitiveness. So facilities that emit less than their emissions earn their surplus credit so they can either sell or save for later use. So we'll continue to engage with small businesses on ways that we can support them in taking actions to reduce emissions, including, as you mentioned, through rebates, incentives, targeted investments, and other supports. Taking action on climate will not only protect our planet and people, but our economy more competitive. And, for our community in Brampton, we have a community that is young, it is a community that is resilient, and it knows that the environment and the economy go hand in hand. And there is a $1 trillion global green economy that Brampton, I feel like, is well positioned to spearhead and take an advantage of, because future is green. The Supreme Court of Canada reaffirmed that climate change is real. And so we will continue to take action, but while also supporting our businesses along the way.
Thank you, Kamal. Certainly, there are lots of moving parts with this new carbon plan, and I really do appreciate your understanding of it and your sensitivity to the harsh realities of the business community. I think everyone wants, as you say, to move in the positive direction to protecting the environment. And yes, by working together and being sensitive to the operational realities, I think we can get there. So thank you so much for that response. I'm going to ask Maninder now. The pandemic has been very disruptive for businesses, and as a Board of Trade, we've been there to support individual cases, helping them to access the many resources that the federal government has put in place. As part of a longer term strategy, though, it's so important for companies to innovate. To innovate more, to adopt new technologies, etc. And my question is, what consideration has the federal government given to boost innovation by helping businesses adopt new technologies like AI, cyber, for example? Cyber insurance is apparently difficult for businesses to obtain, expensive for them to attain. Will we see allotments in the budget coming up, the stimulus budget, that will help support businesses and encourage them to adopt more innovations, more technologies?
Well, first of all, good morning to everyone watching, and thank you to Brampton Board of Trade, and especially Todd for having us here today. I wanted to take this opportunity to thank our businesses here in Brampton, for really stepping up, for being there for our community through donations, through food drives, and various community initiatives. They've been at the forefront of this, and during this pandemic, we have all had to make adjustments to the way we operate as individuals, but also the way the whole business processes work. Our government will always support business and innovation, and with investments such as the $42 million into the expansion of Digital Main Street program, which has supported over 20,000 businesses and create over 1,400 student jobs. This investment announced by our Minister of Economic Development, Minister Jolie, was well received and helps businesses go digital. And here in Ontario, there's also the Shop Here program, which I'm sure you're aware of, and that has supported over 4,000 Main Street businesses across Ontario in developing online storefronts. You spoke a little bit about innovation in your question there. I know our innovation minister is working extremely closely with industry partners, to continue our work, in delivering such programs as the Innovation Solutions Canada, which funds R&D. It's particularly geared towards small businesses, and it has a focus on helping Canadian innovators star and grow their business, test prototypes in real life settings, get funds to solve challenges. So, in addition to that, there's the Industrial Research Assistant Program. We call it the IRAP. And that's offered through the National Research Council. It provides advice from specialists, and it provides funding to Canadian businesses, small or medium, increase their innovation capacity. So there's many different areas that we're trying to target innovation from, whether it's digitizing a business or whether it's focusing on the R&D side. So definitely there'll be more to say once the budget becomes public, but these are some of the things that the department has ongoing.
Thank you, Maninder, and thank you for the full spectrum of encouragement there, various programs for different size businesses and different sectors as well. Certainly, adopting new technologies is a path toward thriving through this pandemic. We haven't heard from Ruby Sahota yet, so I've got a question for Ruby. I see that our chat is filling up with questions from the audience as well. I see there's one there with respect to the Main Street LRT extension. But Ruby, I want to ask you, I didn't want want this session to be dominated by pandemic talk, but I mean, it still is one of the top three business issues. That and transportation and talent are the top three business issues in a recent survey of business confidence that our board did. I'm going to ask you kind of a triple part question. Three things are on the mind of businesses with respect to business operating guidelines post-vaccine. So I'm going to ask all three questions. Question number one, will Canadians need vaccination passports? Question number two, essential work travel. What guidelines will be in place with respect to travel to and from other countries? And the third question is, what about return to office? We were speaking earlier about return to office and what requirements employers will have to have in order to ensure that happens safely. So those are, I can repeat them if you want, but those are the three big things with respect to post-vaccine that are on business people's mind. Do you care to comment on those three?
Absolutely. I'm here to comment, of course, and engage with you and your members. And I want to thank you, Todd, for always inviting us out and letting us know, what your members have top of mind. I think that's really important, that engagement piece. So, we're not able to maybe get in touch with each business that you have under your wings, but you definitely let us know, what the top issues are. So I appreciate that. But I will say, even, rewinding back to the beginning of this pandemic, I'm sure I can attest to all of the members here today, all my colleagues, that we really got to know our local businesses like never before. Of course, we always engaged as members of parliament with our businesses, but at the time the pandemic hit, that is when, we heard from businesses loud and clear, their concerns, their panic about, what was about to happen with their business, what kind of decisions the government was going to make in lieu of the pandemic. I think day and night, we were, whether it was helping travelers coming back from other countries at night, on different time, on different times, or throughout the day, talking to my local businesses over the phone, through email, sending them different material. It was a really challenging, but very beneficial time to meet our local businesses and to hear from them. So we really did. There was an internal mechanism, an engagement mechanism that I had never seen since I had become a member of parliament take place in our government and in our party, where we met daily after hearing concerns from constituents, from our businesses. We met daily with our caucus. We had an input mechanism where we let the government know whether the programs we were rolling out needed adjustments or whether we needed different programs entirely. So that mechanism is still continuing. Some of your questions, Todd, are a little bit, as we've seen through this pandemic, things are constantly evolving and changing. So it's hard to predict exactly, what is going to happen, but I could say around the passports, conversations are happening with other countries. I don't think this is something Canada is really looking at doing, going it alone or internally for movement within our country, but we do want to be have a seamless system. What we've seen is when we have different policies in different countries that vary too much, there's frustration, there's confusion. And so our goal really is, regardless of whether there is a passport, it isn't a passport, what we're trying to do essentially would be lining the decision up with other countries that we have a lot of trade and travel with. And so I think it is going to be a multi-country effort in making this decision. And we're already hearing that it may have some, there may be some difficulties in implementing this. And we're hearing from citizens, Canadians and citizens of other countries as well, as to how it's going to work. I think we're watching the UK as well right now with the launch of the events they're having with the vaccination certificates. So we want to make sure we do have a seamless system, but there's talks happening right now with the health minister and our foreign affairs minister with other countries. And so we will let you know. And I guess what I really want to let your businesses know is that they can reach out to us. They can email us. We can send them those updates. I know my office, with everyone that reaches out to us, we get weekly updates sent out to the local businesses so that they know what's happening and they'll be first to hear. In terms of guidelines for, was your second thing guidelines for businesses?
Yes, any guidelines with respect to return to office, the ongoing cost of personal protection equipment, for example, and its impact on operating budgets is uncertain. Just wondering, what will businesses be required to provide, and will there be any assistance from the government for that?
There has been assistance so far, whether it is in the form, it might not be federally in the form of PPE necessarily, but I think there's been some grants given provincially for PPE, but most of the spending that has been done in this pandemic, 8 out of $10 spent, responding to COVID-19 has been spent by the federal government. And we don't plan on backing off. When it comes to supporting Canadians and supporting our businesses, we want to make sure that, they have what is needed to survive. We want our viable, businesses that have been contributing to our communities to be able to make it through this pandemic. And I know they've had a challenging time, but I urge them to, go to canada.ca and take a look at all the different benefits that are available. I myself go on there, several times a week just to see what the updates are. I think that's the best place, or you can reach out to your MPs. I think everyone's aware of, all the different programs that we have rolled out, the wage subsidies, CEBA, the rent assistance, and we're going to continue a lot of those programs as long as there's restrictions in place. And we have upped some of our programs so that they can meet the needs of the businesses. There's been changes, and I think businesses have known that some of those changes have now made it easier and more flexible for them to apply for those programs. In terms of the guidelines, we do, if you go on canada.ca, there is information there, not only about, what to do if someone tests positive, if that's an employee in your business, but also what federal regulations exist, you can find on there. And you can also find out, like, really for startups and other newer businesses, you can find out great information about how to start a business. I'd also recommend, I think I have for a few times given a plug to Innovation Canada. Innovation Canada is a tool that our industry minister created, and it's a fantastic tool because when I first became a member, a lot of businesses would come to us and ask us what funding was available for different types of scaling up, or different things that they wanted to venture into. And it's often hard, and I know it's difficult, some smaller companies are not able to have grant writers and all of that type of an employee dedicated to that type of work. So I think this tool makes it a lot more easier for smaller businesses to go on Innovation Canada and just plug in what you're looking for. It's a very user-friendly application where you can, let them know what kind of business you are, what province you're in, and it'll sort through all sorts of provincial and federal funding for you and grants. So I do want to take this opportunity to kind of inform your members about that, and they can reach out if they have problems or they haven't been on that portal before, and we can direct them. So there is help out there. Sometimes we don't end up seeking it, and we're waiting for someone to come and tell us about it. So I think that's why that relationship between MPs is important, but a lot of the guidelines are provincial. So that's the other thing, Todd, like once the pandemic is over, and even through this pandemic, a lot of businesses are looking at the provincial government for guidelines, right, as to how to operate. And I think you will see it from our provincial government, but there's resources and financial supports there from your federal government.
Thank you. It was a long question and it was a great answer. I appreciate that very much, Ruby. I want to pick up on something you said in terms of the relationship and the importance of alignment between the federal government and the provincial government. We saw in the most recent provincial budget that our local MPPs were able to secure a number of important things for Brampton. And one, of course, was a statement of commitment and a small amount of money to support a medical school, Ryerson Medical School for Brampton. In the similar vein, when we look at the Main Street LRT extension, and I've had, and I can tell our audience today that our 4 MPs here are strongly in favor of that LRT extension. It is under provincial jurisdiction, but in other parts of Canada, the federal government has played very important parts. Can we expect to see in the upcoming budget, federal budget, which I understand is just a few weeks away, can we at least expect to see, can our local MPs get a statement of future support for funding from the federal government for this project, the Main Street LRT extension?
I can start off, I guess, since I'm still unmuted, and maybe my colleagues can jump in. Future support is, I mean, in a budget, like you're well aware, Todd, and I'm sure a lot of your members, there will be pockets of funding and where our priorities lie outlined. We're hoping, we've been waiting, actually been working with our municipal city councilors here in the city of Brampton to make submissions on an LRT. Of course, I think a lot of Bramptonians, and we've talked about this in many of the panels we've done, because this is an ongoing issue. I remember first being elected as a member of parliament in 2015, and just, I think it was just a few days or a week after there was, deliberations at City Hall right after the federal election. Not that it had anything to do with the federal election, but, it was just the timing of it. And I remember actually sitting in Rose Theater there, I believe it was being held at, and just trying to learn about what the community feedback on the project was. There's a real desire for the project in the community. Completely understand that. And we know the previous government provincially was willing to fund that project for a particular route. City Council at this point is still, I think, in the works of figuring out what route they want, what is best suited for Brantonians. And our government does strongly believe that these decisions should be made locally. And so we're hoping, and we're kind of waiting for a tap on the shoulder in terms of there being a decision made on this project, so that we know what we can advocate for and what we should support. So far, Todd, we haven't really seen a concrete decision come out of the city as to what particular project they want, and that includes what route they want. I think that is very important, because we won't really know whether it's a viable project or not, or what the funding will look like or entail, until we know that.
That makes sense. Kamal, did you want to comment on this as well?
Yeah, for sure. I won't repeat some of the things that Ruby said, for sure. And you know this from the very beginning. I mean, all the time that we've engaged, we've always been supportive of the project. Again, it comes down to having, as Ruby said, a full-fledged plan, so that we can take it up on behalf of Bramptonians and get that funding. But the other thing I do want to mention is that I think public transit in general is extremely important. And from the very beginning, we've actually been investing. I know it's $13.6 billion, over 1,300 public transit projects since 2016 that our government has supported. And with the new public transit announcement, which I'm sure it's a very exciting, dedicated public transit stream of $14.9 billion of new funds. And I think that's something that I think we should all be proud of, because all 4 of us here advocated hard for it because we know what a dedicated public transit stream can do and transform communities like Brampton. So it's because of advocacies of of our constituents, but certainly Brampton Board of Trade and so many of you for raising it, because it's a priority for all of us. And so we look and we have been engaging with our municipal councillors and mayor and provincial counterparts. And once we have a full-fledged plan, I'm sure we'll have more to talk about.
Thanks. And anything short, just briefly to add, Maninder?
Yeah, sure. No, I just, Kamal hit the nail on the head, and same with Ruby, is our investments in transit really matter. I mean, they help our workers get to their businesses. They help our residents commute. Bringing in $40 million for Brampton Transit, which is the largest investment in the last 10 years. We want to continue pushing for more of that. In addition to that, we're investing in clean infrastructure as well. We're investing in electric charging stations here in Brampton. We know we're known as the bedroom community, but if we can take some of those carbon emissions off the road and convert that into EVs and support our residents, I think that's the way to go. So I know we'll continue investing in transit because it's really important, not only for this generation, but for our children as well.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to move along to the next question, and I thank Councillor Vicente for that question about statement of future support. But to summing up the responses there, we really do need the City of Brampton to establish what is the project, what is the route before we can get commitment from the federal government. I want to now. I see in the chat we have another question from Mo Sharma of Zochem. And this is a question that strands two topics. One is protection of the environment, but the other is federal provincial bureaucracy. And that's why we elect MPs, is to hold departments, to hold ministries accountable. And what's happening with this carbon tax program is the pricing is through something called OBPS, the output-based pricing structure. And it's the whole file is going to be transferred over to the province. And they've changed the name of it. It's going to be called the EPS, which I think is the Environmental Pricing System, in 2022. And again, whenever you have a new system, there's always companies that can get caught in the middle, some unintended consequences. And the question from Zochem, one of our companies, is: will our local MPs look at the program before it is transferred to the province and ensure that for certain industries like I believe that Zochem is the only zinc oxide producer in Ontario. There may be another one in Canada, but it's a very, very competitive market. And with respect to making sure that bureaucracies are aligned before it is transferred over to the province, can we get a commitment from you, MPs, to meet with Zochem to understand the problem and perhaps make changes that help them be recognized for the $21 million investment they've made in environmentally friendly technology at their plant, and help them keep jobs here in Canada? Who would like to respond to that? Maninder?
Sure, I'll take a crack at this. We are always open to engagement with local businesses and the community in large. But however, we do need to count on the department and their expertise as well. We're no means scientists or specialists in this field, but definitely we want to stay engaged with businesses to ensure that we're there for them. Essentially, it's the provincial government and the federal government that decides how this program rolls out with department officials. And we can't exclude department officials, but of course we can still have a voice in this as well. If there's concerns to be raised, then sure, we're always open to having conversations and making sure those concerns are heard by the department when they're making the policies.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that very much. I'm going to go back to a question now on vaccine rollout. And Sonia Kamal, maybe you can help us with this. Employers want their employees vaccinated as soon as possible, certainly in the headlines this week. Brampton is a hotspot, as we know, and according to the Ontario Science Advisory Table, workers in manufacturing, food processing, and logistics are spreaders to their homes and to their community. Two questions. How much longer will Canada be in short supply of vaccines, and can you influence reprioritizing vaccine allotment to Brampton and to ensure that essential workers have priority vaccinations? We saw an announcement provincially on that just yesterday. And secondly, will the federal government reduce the shot wait time, the second shot wait time, from 4 months when we have more vaccines? Sonia Kamal?
Yes, Todd, it is very, very important. We all know that it's a difficult year for many businesses, for all of us. Many of your members had to completely transfer your operations to make them safe, or had to adjust as their teams begin to work from home, like we are doing today. Many businesses and corporate partners showed leadership to continue serving our community. So I completely understand the context of this question. And I would like to say Canada has a very strong vaccine supply, and we are actually vaccines are arriving in the country faster than expected. Our procurement minister, Minister Anita Anand, has been working very hard to make sure we have a strong supply. We were only expecting 6 million doses in the first quarter, but instead of we got 10 million by the end of this last week. We are expecting another 6 million by April 19th, 5 million Pfizer doses, and that were expected for the summer, but now it will be arriving in spring. Canada will also begin saving shipment of one-dose vaccine, Johnson & Johnson, later this month by the end of June. So we expect to have received enough of every eligible Canadian to be administered to a first dose, and be well on the way to them receiving their second. In terms of priorities for administering them, it is up to the individual provinces and local health units that determine when each group will be eligible. I know some pharmacies are now running the program. I was happy to see that provincial government announced this week that they will be making the vaccine available to people over the age of 18 in the hotspots, like in some postal codes. They are already posting that, and including by sending mobile teams to large workplaces. Todd, you may have seen that I retweeted your message saying that that was published, my own statement. I completely agree that individuals who don't have the option to working from home, who work in setting which are high risk for transmitting the virus, should receive the vaccine as soon as possible.
Thank you. That's a great response, and appreciate your retweeting. Kamal, I know you have something more to add. I just want to remind our guests that we certainly, as a board of trade, our members employ more than 45,000 people, or about 1 in every 3 jobs here in Brampton. And we have as our mission when it comes to vaccine rollout, being partners in protection. We're advocating for a multi-channel approach to get needles in arms as soon as possible. So we support Peel Public Health's mass vaccination clinics. We support their mobile clinics. We support the province's pharmacy allocation, but we also believe that employers, because of their logistics expertise, because of their production line expertise, because of their process design and project management expertise, we have a pilot of 6 companies that are confident they can get needles in arms with 24 hours notice. It's unfortunate that Peel Public Health has not yet called on us to implement that. Sometimes ideologies get in the way of practicalities, And I hope that Peel Public Health, when they need help, will call on the employer community for that help. Sorry, I just wanted to add that as context to this question. Kamal, you have some comments on it as well?
Yes, Todd. Thank you for that. And I think certainly I do want to thank you and the advocacy that you've been doing on behalf of businesses, especially who are well positioned to also, vaccinate their employees. And I think we need a diversity of options in how we do that. So thank you for, I think it's a very important point, and I support you in any way that, from the federal perspective, at least advocating on behalf of that. Just to add to what, Sonia had already mentioned, when it comes to the federal government, it is about ensuring that there's enough supply. And, we've secured the highest numbers of doses per capita of any country in the world. And I think that's something that I think people need to really acknowledge and understand. And one of the most diverse portfolios of COVID-19 vaccines. Millions of vaccines are arriving in Canada as we speak, and have been delivered to Ontario. As of yesterday, I was just looking at the numbers this morning. In Ontario, we provided over 4 million vaccine doses, and province has administers 2.8 million doses across the province. Because, as you know, province is responsible for administering vaccines, and from the very beginning, I can tell you we've been engaging with our provincial counterparts to advocate, to prioritize, and to get those vaccines to essential workers, to manufacturers, and to all the frontline workers. I'm sure you've seen, as Todd, as you have been advocating on social media, so have all of us, ensuring that we get those vaccines in arms. I'm glad to see that certainly like this week that the province announced that vaccines have opened up to those certainly for 50 plus in Brampton hotspots, and to plan is to administer to those priority groups within this month, as announced by the province. And we look forward to getting that information as soon as we can and share that with all of you and with all our constituents. But from the federal perspective, and from our procurement efforts, as Sonia mentioned, we've been ahead of receiving vaccines in phase 1, and it looks like that we will probably beat the same schedule in phase 2 as well. So looking to get everyone vaccinated who wants one by Canada Day, and now it's again up to the provinces to getting those vaccines into everyone's arms. And I can tell you, being at the front lines, administering those vaccines as a nurse is one of the greatest, I think, joys that I've ever gotten as a nurse, to be able to come full circle from last year, I think, when we were talking when I had COVID back in March. But I have to say, that is, I think, if you think about it, like that is the biggest party for all of us. That's it's all hands on deck, and that's certainly all of us, your federal representative are moving forward and ensuring that, yes, we're going to continue to bring in the supplies, but we need to get those vaccines in the arms as soon as possible, especially in our community in Brampton, and we'll continue to support in any way that we can.
Well, thank you, Kamal. And I remember that you were very active in your leadership, jumped onto the floor to do vaccinations as a registered nurse. Thank you. I had forgotten that you actually got COVID as well. And we're so happy that you are back and fully recovered. So thank you for your active leadership in helping to curb the spread. Meninder, you wanted something to add?
Yeah, just a quick point here. The Prime Minister had been very clear. If the provinces need our assistance, we're there to help any way possible, as we've been from the beginning, whether it's through supporting municipalities through our Safe Restart program, or whether it's just delivering those vaccines. The Prime Minister in his news conference the other day was very, very clear. We don't want to just put it on the province. We want to work hand in hand with our partners across Canada. So if there's anything that we can do, I know the federal government is there.
Very good. Thanks so much. I'm going to ask you this next question, Meninder, and maybe Sonia can help with this as well. COVID, the pandemic, is a respiratory crisis. It's also a mental health crisis. Certainly in Brampton, when we think about the mental health of our business community, when you have 3,400, almost 3,400 businesses that are on the brink of bankruptcy, when you have 14,500 that are delinquent in their payments to their financial institutions, 13,500 delinquent in their payments to their suppliers, 18,000, more than 18,000 businesses that have lost hope, given up, have made their businesses inactive. There is a tremendous toll on the mental health, not only of the business community, but many others in society here in Canada. What guidelines, resources are available for businesses that can, from the federal government, that can help them deal with this stress and get them back in business again?
Sonia, do you want to start?
Sure. Thank you, Todd. First, we need to start by recognizing the importance of mental health. We know that this pandemic has been hard on many people. I have had many conversations with the Canada Mental Health Association, nationally, locally, about this subject, and it's frequently brought up when I speak with my youth council and like many my residents in the health committee. We recently completed a study on the impact of the pandemic has had on mental health. And Todd, you said what tools are out there. We need to invest in proper tools to allow businesses and workers to cope with the stress. For the most part, health services are managed by the even the provincial government, but I can say our government has made several important investments in this area. In 2017, we committed $5 billion to be directed to home and community care and mental health and addiction services. Last year, we invested $89 million to support Wellness Together Canada, which is an online portal that provides Canadians with free resources, tools, and professional support services to help with wellness and resilience, as well as mental health and substance use. These approaches are working because as of January, more than 800,000 people across the country have access to these services. So that means that approach is working. We got very positive feedback from that portal. Finally, the workforce perspective. Last month, our Labor Minister, Falmina Tassi, announced that her department was beginning a consultation on other ways we can support those working in federally regulated industries. More and more people have been working from during this pandemic. So it has exposed the need to consider the right to disconnect policy. So they are working on the consultation, and it is important that the workplaces involve the laws that protect and support workers as well. So we all know mental health services are widely important for all of us. We need to be there for Canadians when they need us the most. Thank you. It is very important question.
Thank you, Sonia. Meninder?
Yeah, no, and not to echo everything that Sonia said, but it's important. I know it's important to our government in terms of mental health supports, and we've been there with our commitments. Over $240 million, to expand virtual care and mental health support tools. Of course, we work with the provinces and territories and other stakeholders to make sure this investment is utilized the proper way. But we want to make sure we're there, even through federal programs such as the the Wellness Together Canada, the Canada program, that the website that Sonia mentioned. In addition to that, we have local community-based projects that are aimed at improving mental health. It's distributed through our Public Health Agency of Canada. So there's many various approaches that we're taking because we know, we're all stuck at home. We don't get that contact with our colleagues, with our friends, to check in. So I think what's most important for those that are watching is reach out to even your employees. Just check in with them. It's just a 2-minute phone call. I think it goes a long way. We're doing the same thing with our teams here, because it's extremely important to check in once in a while to gauge it, let them know that you're there for them. So thanks again for that question, Todd.
Yeah, we're heading into our last 10 minutes of our session today. We've covered a broad spectrum of questions. I do encourage you to ask a question in the chat, if you will. I think we've covered the mental health aspect, what services to youth, etc., the LRT. We've talked about the environment. We've talked about bureaucracy as well, between an alignment required between the federal and provincial government. This is another question about it, and I want to start off by thanking these MPs for their advocacy in greenlighting the Milton Logistics Hub. Brampton, of course, is one of the most strong communities in North America for logistics. The assets that we have in terms of the Brampton Intermodal Terminal, the Toronto Pearson, our 400 series highways, etc. And the literally 40,000 people that work in logistics. This is a hub for North America. And these MPs gave their support for a $250 million investment into the Milton Logistics Hub against some local pressure. I want to thank you all for doing that. I remember our conversations on that. I remember the detailed questions that you had and the sharing of information. And I want to thank you all for that. That's been green lighted. Shovels will be in the ground this fall, and that will shore up the supply chain for Canada. That will help local exporters. It'll make sure that we get food in our groceries and medicines in our pharmacies, and that's really great to see. Another project that is on the books is a provincial highway. That's the GTA West Corridor Highway. And again, whenever it seems in Canada, we have these big infrastructure projects. There's always those that are for it and those that are against it. And much like the Milton Logistics Hub, which was under federal jurisdiction, the IAAC, the Environmental Agency, the Environmental Assessment Agency, federal, was the jurisdiction, and rightly so made the decision there. That despite calls from those that were against it, that wanted provincial, not just one EA, but they wanted a provincial set of EAs as well. And thank goodness the court threw that out. We've got a different situation with the GTA West Corridor Highway, where it's under provincial jurisdiction, and the EA is undergoing, actually started back in 2012. It continues. And the provincial government has done what we've asked them to do, and that is narrow the scope of EA so that it does what it's supposed to do: protect the environment, but is not a catch-all for every anti-development and anti-highway group. The anti-highway group has called on the federal government to layer on another environmental assessment, a federal assessment, and it's simply not necessary. My question is a very simple one. Will local MPs encourage the IAAC, the Federal Environmental Assessment Agency, not to interfere in this highway project? Who would like to? Ruby?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and field that question. I know that this highway is getting a lot of attention recently. I think things were underway for many years as to the planning, maybe provincially, of this highway, and even with the previous provincial government. But we are taking, we're hearing from our local representatives more and more on this project. And so I want to preface it with, we'll continue to listen to local communities. But right now, what has happened, and I think you've highlighted it to some degree, basically, a submission has been made, and letters from the city of Brampton, as well as the city of Caledon and Vaughan, and all the surrounding local municipalities that are affected by this project, are wanting or have been calling upon the federal agency to take a second look at this project. So even though absolutely it was a provincial project that was being worked on, of course you cannot do things without the municipalities. There has been some change of heart, or at least some questions that are arising out of this project. And so submissions have been made, like you've said, to the Federal Impact Assessment Agency. And under the Act, they have 90 days to take a look at the submission. And so I believe around May 4th, we should see a decision coming out from that. Recommendations are going to be made independently from that assessment agency to the Minister of Environment. Once those recommendations are made, it will be based on whether there is an impact that is adverse enough for the federal government to really be designating this as this project having federal jurisdiction, needing to be involved in it or not. We don't know what the outcome of that is going to be at this point. All we know is that submissions have been made, and even our own city of Brampton is looking to the federal government to get involved, which that's fine. They feel that they want to have that oversight at this time. And so I think the science should do its work. Whether there is an environmental impact or not, I think we are going to get good recommendations from the agency. We have, like you've seen in the Milton project as well, and it was a fair assessment. So it won't be just based on emotion, it will be based on the actual science that we're going to come out with. After that, even if it is designated, if it's not designated, the federal government won't have any other remarks to make on the project or anything to say about it. But if it is designated, it doesn't mean that the project comes to an end necessarily. It just means that there will be more steps that need to be taken at that point. So I think when we come to that road on May 4th, that is when your federal MPs can probably, have more to say. But first, we need to wait on the agency to really see if this project is even designated to begin with. But feel free, Brampton Board of Trade, to make a submission to the agency yourself as well. We know that letters have been written by many local representatives, and I think you represent a body that is very important to our local businesses, and so you should have a voice at the table as well. So definitely, we're here to listen to you and work with you. And just like my colleague Maninder was saying as well, we're open to meeting with and hearing from the feedback from your businesses and your members. But we have infrastructure. Like I have to still say, infrastructure is so important to our government. So although this is not a project that the federal government is building per se, we have spent so much, invested so much, spent so much money and so much time and political capital into wanting to make sure good infrastructure projects move forward, infrastructure projects that have the proper assessments and support from the local communities and our local city, of course. First and foremost, we need to make sure that they're supportive of the project. And I don't think we've seen a clear decision on this one, at least. So on some, we're waiting for, like I've said before, a tap from our city as to whether they're really wanting certain projects to go forward or not. But for now, we'll wait until May 4th, and then we'll start having those discussions.
Well, thank you for that response, Ruby. And you mentioned the importance of infrastructure for Canada. And this is certainly an important infrastructure project. You mentioned May the 4th. May the 4th be with us. May the 4th be with Canada and its progress. And let's hope that the federal government will rightly decide, the IAAC will rightly decide that it does not need to interfere and delay this project further. May the 4th be with us. Sorry about that. Dad joke, really bad. But hey, we need to keep things light in such dreary circumstances.
Absolutely.
I want to thank our guests here today for the fulsome, the comprehensive, and the very insightful responses that you had for our questions today. I want to thank our audience for their questions. I want to thank our sponsors as well, Sheridan College and Goodison, for making this event possible. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you about two upcoming events. Next week, the 15th, midday, we have our View from the Top with a really exciting company, a company that's been in Brampton for decades now. I'm speaking of Elmag Aluminum, and the leaders of Elmag Aluminum, Bob Peacock and Joe Jackman, will be having a very insightful presentation through our View from the Top series about how they did a successful transition of power, a successful succession plan, so that from Bob to Joe. This is a company that has expanded in Brampton recently. This is a company that exports, that has purchased an American company, expanded into the States. There are lots of learning lessons about overcoming challenges, about capturing opportunities communities. And I really do encourage our members to attend the April 15th View from the Top. You can find out about that at bramptonbot.com. I just reviewed the nominations for our Business Excellence Awards, which is the evening of May 6th. Pop that into your calendar, because I think we had 86 different nominations from 12 different categories. If you attended last fall, last year's event, we did it virtually for the first time, and we had a lot of fun with it. It's an inspirational evening. You hear some great stories about some great companies, great people doing amazing things in our community. So that's May 6th. We, of course, we have we're well along our path of digital transformation at the Board of Trade, and we have weekly our open door discussions. If you have a question about your business, come meet some new people. We'll hopefully connect you with services, programs, people that can determine your success, can help accelerate your journey to success. I want to thank again our guests today, Maninder, Kamal, Sonia, and Ruby, and we look forward to seeing you again very, very soon. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for having us.